All right, let's look at the double angle formulas. The double angle formulas are listed here, and I would say it's probably worthwhile memorizing this one because it comes up a lot. Sine of 2x is equal to 2 sine x cosine x. I wouldn't worry about memorizing the others. Notice, funny thing here, on cosine 2x, they actually give you three different versions of the formula. They give you this one, and this one. And it's actually easy to see where they come from or how they're equivalent. Because if you remember that cosine squared x plus sine squared x is 1, you can take this and solve it for either cosine squared x or sine squared x. If you do that and then you replace one of these two guys with what you get, it'll give you these other two formulas. And then tan 2x is given here. So what I want to do is just a few examples. Let's look at this one. Cosine of theta is 1/10. Theta is in quadrant 1. Find sine 2 theta and cosine 2 theta. Okay, so if cosine theta is 1/10 and we're in quadrant 1, let's see. Actually, let's hold off on drawing anything. There's one of these I can do without having to draw anything or figure anything out. We're given cosine is 1/10. So if we want to find cosine 2 theta, if I come up here to this formula and I pick this one, I can immediately come up with cosine 2 theta. Cosine 2 theta is going to be 2 cosine squared theta minus 1. And I'm going to rewrite this just to emphasize this, because we've seen this, but not a ton of it. But when you got cosine squared like that, it means you take the cosine of theta and square it. So I'm going to put in 2 times 1/10 squared minus 1. So that's 2 times 1 over 100 minus 1. And so let's see, 2 times 1 over 100. You know what? This will be easier to do with decimals. So this is 0.02 minus 1 is negative 0.98. And that's not an approximation, that's an exact answer. So cosine 2 theta is that. Now let's do sine 2 theta. Now to do sine 2 theta, that's 2 sine theta cosine theta. Well, we've got to figure out what is sine theta. So before we can do that, I'm going to move this down. To figure out what sine theta is, I'm going to draw this in here. Here's my angle theta in quadrant 1. Now this is way off from what it would actually be. The angle's not to scale. But if cosine theta is 1/10, that means my adjacent side to theta is 1 and my hypotenuse is 10. So this side over here is going to be the square root of 99. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, because it's 100 squared minus 1 squared gives you 99 square root, so it gives us that. All right, so sine 2 theta is going to be 2 times root 99 over 10. That's my sine, opposite over hypotenuse. And then the cosine is 1 over 10. So I wind up with 2 root 99 over 100. All right. So those are my answers. Before we just plow on to the next example, let's look at these for a second. Does it make sense that one's negative and one's positive? I think it does. What that tells us is our original angle is somewhere over here in the first quadrant. And when we do, so this is theta. 2 theta is going to be, twice that angle. So 2 theta is going to be over here in the second quadrant. And in the second quadrant, sine is positive and cosine is negative. Furthermore, we can figure this out with the calculator. We don't need this, and indeed this won't help us get the exact answer. But we can check these answers by figuring out what is that angle theta. Let's see, I don't have a ton of space. But let's just figure out what theta is. So I'm going to put in here on my calculator, I'm in degree mode. So if the cosine is 1/10, to get theta, I'm just going to do inverse cosine of 0.1. That gives me theta is 84 degrees, 84.26 degrees. And if I do, I'm going to save this as the variable x. And now if I do sine of 2x, it gives me this number. Now, is that 2 root 99 over 100? Well, let's see. I'm going to put that in my other calculator here. 2 root 99 divided by 100. And let's see. Do these agree? Let's see, get them both on the screen. Yeah, they're the same thing. So that works. All right, now let's do the cosine. Cosine of 2x. Now this should give us the 0.98, and it should be exact. And sure enough, it is. It's negative 0.98. So we can do that and double check that our answers are correct. But we need to do this sort of work to figure out those exact answers.